Last week, Friday, there was an article in New York Times and other news outlets that two envoys, one from Saudi Arabia, Dr. Anwar Ashqi, who is the senior officials in the Saudi government, and Dori Gold, who is assistant to the Prime Minister of Israel. They both met in Washington, and they both delivered a speech before the Foreign Relations Council in Washington. And they both shook hands with each other. And it was on the TV. Many of you maybe I've seen it. I have watched it on the TV. These two men, the Saudi, it's not a secret. It was a public event in which a Saudi senior official shaking hand with the Israeli official and talking about a unified ground between Saudi Arabia and Israel. So what is this unified ground? It is fighting Iran. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. I'm not shocked to see Israel being so adamant about fighting Iran. This is something we expect. But for a Muslim country, at least publicly, they call themselves a Muslim country. You know, in Saudi Arabia, there is no constitution, written constitution. You know why? Because they believe that the written constitution is the Quran. They believe the Quran is their constitution. So I want to ask the Saudi officials, if you really believe that Quran is your constitution, does the Quran tell you to go and work with your enemy, supposed enemy, against your own Muslim brothers? Is that what the Quran asks you? Does not the Quran say, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً? Muslims are brothers and sisters. Does not the Quran say, مُحَمَّدٌ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ? The Quran says Muslims have to be tough on their enemies and have to be merciful with each other. Saudi Arabia is telling us the exact opposite. They are not being tough with their enemy. They are being so loving and gentle with the enemy while they are working with the enemy against a brother. Is this what Islam says? Shame on these people. And shame on those Muslims who see this and don't say anything. And shame on people who see these governments are committing these disgraceful acts and they do not do anything about it. Yesterday also brought some bad news from Syria, in which Al-Nusra, a group, terrorist group, attacked a Druze village or city, Suwaida, in Syria, killing 40 Druze individuals, mostly men and women and kids. Now, again, this is not something out of ordinary. This is something that Al-Nusra, ISIS have been doing for a long time now. But the irony is they always call themselves Muslim warriors, Muslim militants, speaking in the name of Islam. Again, this is another example that Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, they do not only target Shia. The war is not between Shia and Sunnis. They started with Shia, of course, by killing over 1,700 soldiers in Spiker last year, almost a year ago, when they overrun Al-Mosul and Tikrit. Then they attacked the Christian community in Mosul, then the Yazidi community, and today the Druze community. This shows that ISIS and Nusra, those forces, they have zero tolerance toward others. And if you're not with us, then you're against us. And soon they will go after all those people who oppose them. And for the 1 millionth time, we repeat and say, Al-Nusra does not represent our religion, does not represent our faith. These are bunch of terrorists who are acting on their own. Bunch of thugs who are acting on their own for their own gains, and they do not represent our faith.